All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're doing a deep dive on something that seems to be everywhere these days, naturally boosting testosterone.
It's definitely a hot topic.
We've got a ton of research on it, articles, studies, even a whole guide we went through. And honestly, after going through all of it, I feel like I'm seeing testosterone in a whole new light.
Absolutely. It's about way more than just building muscle, which is what most people think it's all about.
Right. It affects so much your energy, your mood, even how clearly you think. It's kind of amazing, actually.
It's like the fuel for a high-performance life, physically and mentally. And here's the thing, it's not just for men.
Exactly. This deep dive is for everyone. But before we get into how to boost it, how do you even know if your testosterone needs a boost? Is it just feeling a little tired, or is there more to it?
It can be a lot of things, actually. Like you said, feeling tired all the time can be one sign. But low testosterone can also make it harder to build muscle, even if you're working out regularly.
So those squats you used to breeze through suddenly feel impossible.
Exactly. And then there's that stubborn belly fat that just won't budge no matter what you do. Those can be physical signs.
Makes sense. But it's not just physical, right?
Right. It can mess with you mentally and emotionally, too. Like, ever have those days where you just can't focus and your brain feels foggy? Or you're just not feeling motivated to do anything?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought that was just me.
And then there are the mood swings. Those can be signs, too.
So basically, if you're feeling blah, it could be a testosterone thing.
It could be. Obviously, you always want to talk to your doctor to be sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people just brush these symptoms off, and it turns out their testosterone levels could use some help.
Which brings us to the big question. How do we naturally boost our testosterone? It seems like our sources all pointed to three main things: what you eat, how you move your body, and your overall lifestyle. Let's start with food. What we put in our bodies is so important.
You can't run a high-performance machine on junk food. Our research highlighted some foods that are like testosterone superstars, like leafy greens, especially spinach.
Spinach. What's so great about spinach?
It's packed with magnesium, which is directly involved in testosterone production.
Interesting. What else? I feel like I highlighted fatty fish about 100 times in my notes.
You got it. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, those are all great sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for healthy testosterone levels.
Okay, so we're eating our greens and our fatty fish, but our sources were also pretty adamant about cutting back on sugar.
Absolutely. Sugar is a big one. We're not saying you have to give up dessert forever, but cutting back on refined sugars and processed foods in general will make a big difference. Those things can really mess with your hormone balance.
I guess it makes sense. Processed foods are full of ingredients our bodies aren't really designed to handle.
Right. And they can lead to inflammation, which is something you want to avoid if you're trying to boost your testosterone.
So inflammation's the enemy. Got it. Now, let's talk about exercise. We know staying active is crucial, but what kind of exercise are we talking about here?
Our sources all agreed. Strength training is key when it comes to testosterone. Lifting weights, body weight exercises, anything that challenges your muscles will send a signal to your body to produce more testosterone.
So those compound movements like squats and deadlifts are the way to go.
You got it. Those are the ones that work multiple muscle groups at once, which is what you want.
Got it. Heavy lifting it is. But what about cardio? I'm a runner, so I was a little concerned when I saw some of the stuff about too much cardio.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, cardio is great for your overall health. But if you're doing hours and hours of endurance training every week, it can actually start to work against you.
Really? Why is that?
It has to do with cortisol, that stress hormone we talked about earlier. Too much intense cardio can spike your cortisol levels, and that can interfere with testosterone production. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
So moderation is key, as with most things. Speaking of moderation, let's talk about lifestyle factors, because it's not just about what we eat and how we move, right? Our overall lifestyle plays a huge role too.
Absolutely. And one of the most important yet often overlooked lifestyle factors when it comes to testosterone is sleep.
Ah, sleep. The cure for everything, it seems.
It's true. When you're sleep deprived, your body produces more cortisol. And we know what that does to testosterone. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. It's when your body does most of its repair and recovery work, including hormone production.
So basically, when you're sleeping, your body is working hard to keep everything running smoothly, including your testosterone levels. I like it. But let's be real, getting enough sleep is easier said than done, especially with our busy lives.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's worth prioritizing. And on that note, let's talk about stress, because stress is a major testosterone killer.
Ugh, stress. I feel like it's everywhere these days.
It is. And when you're constantly stressed out, your body's pumping out cortisol, which, as we've discussed, is not good for testosterone. So finding healthy ways to manage stress is key.
So what are some things people can do to manage stress? I know meditation is a big one.
Meditation is great. And so is yoga. Spending time in nature, even just taking a few minutes each day to do some deep breathing exercises. Anything that helps you unwind and de-stress.
It's about finding what works for you and making it a part of your routine. Now, before we move on, I have to ask about some of those everyday habits that could be secretly sabotaging our testosterone levels. Things like alcohol and...
Right. It's not always easy to hear, but our sources are pretty clear. Excessive alcohol and drug use can really mess with your testosterone.
Yeah.
And it's not just the hardcore stuff either. Even moderate drinking can have an impact.
It all comes back to making conscious choices that support our overall well-being.
Exactly. Your body is a system, and everything is connected.
So we've got diet, exercise, lifestyle. Are we missing anything? What about vitamins and supplements? I know a lot of people are curious about those.
Great question. And yes, there are some key vitamins and supplements that can help boost testosterone naturally.
Welcome back to our deep dive on naturally boosting testosterone. We left off talking about vitamins and supplements, so let's pick up there. Are there any specific ones that stand out from the research?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Our sources were pretty consistent on a few, like vitamin D. It's called the sunshine vitamin for a reason.
Because we get it from sunlight, right?
Exactly. But a lot of people aren't getting enough sunlight, especially these days. And it turns out vitamin D is super important for testosterone production.
So if you're not soaking up the sun every day, you might want to think about a vitamin D supplement.
It's worth talking to your doctor about for sure. And then there are zinc and magnesium. Those two are like a dynamic duo when it comes to testosterone.
A dynamic duo? How so? What do they do?
Well, zinc is essential for testosterone production, and magnesium helps your body use it more effectively. So they work together.
Interesting. It's like one without the other isn't as effective.
Exactly. Teamwork. You'll find zinc in things like oysters, beef, pumpkin seeds, and magnesium is abundant in leafy greens, almonds, dark chocolate. It's a good excuse to treat yourself.
I'm all about that. Now, our sources also mentioned a couple of herbal supplements, ashwagandha and fenugreek. Are those ones you're familiar with?
I am. Ashwagandha is great for stress management, which we know is huge for keeping cortisol in check. And remember, cortisol is basically public enemy number one when it comes to testosterone.
Right. It's like they're always battling it out. And what about fenugreek? What's the deal with that one?
That one's interesting because it's been linked to both testosterone and libido boosts.
Ooh, intriguing. So it's a twofer. Now, before we move on to lifestyle, I wanted to circle back to food for a sec. We talked about foods we should be eating, but are there any foods we should be avoiding? Like, I'm guessing sugary drinks aren't on the testosterone boosting menu.
You'd be right. Those sugary sodas and sports drinks can really mess with your blood sugar levels, which can ultimately impact your testosterone production.
Makes sense. They're basically sugar bombs. So what about diet sodas? Are those okay, or are they just as bad?
Unfortunately, they're not much better. Even though they don't have sugar, those artificial sweeteners can still disrupt your gut health, which can have a ripple effect on your hormones.
Wow, I didn't know that. So it's best to stick with water, unsweetened tea, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Those are always your best bet. And while we're on the topic of food, I want to emphasize something we touched on earlier. Processed foods. They're really something you want to minimize if you're serious about optimizing your testosterone levels.
Yeah, we talked about how they can lead to inflammation, but is there more to it than that?
They're often loaded with unhealthy fats like trans fats and hydrogenated oils, which have been linked to lower testosterone levels.
Okay, so we're ditching the processed stuff and focusing on whole, nutrient-dense foods.
Got it. Now, I have a confession. When we were prepping for this deep dive, and I saw all this stuff about cold showers, well, let's just say I wasn't exactly thrilled. But after reading through the research, I have to admit, I'm intrigued. What's the deal with cold showers and testosterone? Is it just another one of those things people say? Or is there actual science behind it?
There's actually some pretty compelling research on this one. Studies have shown that cold exposure can actually stimulate testosterone production.
Really? How does that even work?
It's not entirely clear, but it seems like the shock of the cold water might trigger a hormonal response in the body, leading to a surge in testosterone.
Wow, so it's like giving your system a wake-up call.
Exactly. And it's not just about testosterone either. Cold showers have also been linked to a bunch of other health benefits like improved circulation, increased energy levels, even a boost in mood. Interesting. Maybe those cold showers aren't so bad after all. I might have to give them another try. But for now, let's move on to something a little less, shall we say, jarring.
All right, we're back for the final part of our testosterone deep dive. And I'm ready to unravel this mind-body connection you mentioned. It's amazing how much we've already covered, but the idea that our thoughts can impact our hormones is a whole new level.
It's pretty wild, right? But the research is clear. Our mindset plays a much bigger role in our overall health and well-being than we often realize. And that includes our hormone balance.
So we're not just talking about positive thinking here, it's deeper than that.
It goes way beyond that. It's about understanding the intricate connection between our thoughts, our emotions, and those chemical messengers in our bodies, our hormones.
Okay, so walk me through it. How exactly do our thoughts influence something like testosterone production?
Well, remember how we talked about cortisol, that stress hormone, being testosterone's biggest opponent?
Right, like they're on opposite sides of the ring. Exactly. Well, it turns out our thoughts have the power to trigger the release of cortisol just as powerfully as a physical stressor would.
You mean like if I'm constantly worrying about work or stressing about something that happened, my body can't tell the difference between that and, say, running from a tiger?
It's kind of like that, yeah. When we're stressed out, our bodies go into fight or flight mode, releasing a cascade of hormones, including cortisol. And if we're chronically stressed, those cortisol levels stay elevated, which can interfere with testosterone production.
So it's like we're sending our bodies mixed signals. On the one hand, we're trying to boost testosterone, but on the other hand, we're stressing ourselves out and pumping the brakes at the same time.
Precisely. It's a recipe for hormonal havoc. But here's the good news. We have more control over our thoughts than we often realize. We can learn to rewire our brain, so to speak, and cultivate a more positive and supportive inner dialogue.
So instead of focusing on everything that's going wrong, we focus on what's going right. Gratitude, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Practicing gratitude is huge. And so is mindfulness. Challenging negative thoughts, focusing on our strengths. Those are all powerful tools for managing stress and creating an inner environment where testosterone can thrive.
It's like we're giving our bodies permission to relax and focus on what it's supposed to be doing, including producing hormones.
I like that. It's not about becoming some kind of Zen master overnight. It's about making small, consistent changes in our daily lives. Yeah. Even just taking a few minutes each day to meditate, practice gratitude, or engage in activities that bring us joy can make a big difference.
It's about being intentional with our thoughts and actions. Speaking of intentional, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT. We talked about the potential benefits and drawbacks, but it seems like a big decision to start, let alone maintain. Are there things people should be considering before going down that road?
Absolutely. TRT can be a life changer for some men, especially those with clinically low testosterone levels that aren't responding to lifestyle changes. But it's not a decision to be taken lightly. It's a long-term commitment. And it comes with potential risks and side effects.
Like what? What are some of the downsides?
Well, some men experience acne, mood swings, even sleep apnea. And there's the risk of your body becoming reliant on this synthetic testosterone and reducing its own natural production.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's not without its challenges.
Right. And it's not always a quick fix either. It can take time to find the right dosage and balance for your body.
So it's definitely something to discuss with your doctor, weigh the pros and cons, and really think about if it's the right choice for you.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that TRT is often most effective when combined with those healthy lifestyle changes we've been talking about. You know, diet, exercise, stress management, all that good stuff.
It's about treating the whole person, not just the symptoms.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
Well, I feel like this deep dive has been a crash course in holistic testosterone optimization. We've covered so much ground from the food we eat to the thoughts we think. It's amazing how interconnected it all is.
It's truly fascinating, and it highlights the incredible power we have to influence our health and well-being through our daily choices.
Absolutely. We have more agency than we often realize. Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining me on this testosterone adventure. I feel like I've learned so much, and I hope our listeners have too.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our amazing listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and inspiration to take charge of your testosterone health naturally. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those testosterone levels pumping.